What is manufacturing? The term manufacturing refers to the processing of raw materials or parts into finished goods through the use of tools, human labor, machinery, and chemical processing. Converting these raw materials into something more useful adds value. This added value increases the price of finished products, making manufacturing a very profitable part of the business chain. The term may refer to a range of human activity from handicraft to high-tech, but is most commonly applied to industrial design, in which raw materials from the primary sector are transformed into finished goods on a large scale. Such goods may be sold to other manufacturers for the production of other more complex products such as aircraft or household appliances, furniture, sports equipment, or automobiles, or distributed via the tertiary industry to end users and consumers, usually through wholesalers who in turn sell to retailers who then sell to individual consumers and customers. Manufacturing continues to be the major source of commercial innovation and is essential for innovation in the service sector. Manufacturing firms are far more likely than non-manufacturing firms to introduce new products and new production or business processes. According to the National Science Foundation's 2008 Business R&D and Innovation Survey, 22% of manufacturing companies, but only 8% of non-manufacturing companies introduced a new or significantly improved good or service between 2006 and 2008. If Nigeria is to become a major player in the world of knowledge economy, it has to transform itself into a manufacturing hub. This is where the Tertiary Education Trust Fund comes in. One of TETFund's key interventions is the inauguration of the Research and Development Standing Committee, which has manufacturing as one of its thematic areas. These are the chronicles of the journey to institutionalize research and development in Nigeria. Hello, and welcome to this edition of TETFund, The Paradigm Shift. I am Stanley Bentu. Today we put a spotlight on manufacturing and how TETFund, by using the triple helix model, which brings government, the academia, and industry together, can create an industrial revolution with innovation at its very center. But why should we bother with all the stress of manufacturing, I hear you ask? After all, if we scratch the ground just a little bit, we will find oil. Whatever we make from oil can buy us what we need, right? Well, not quite. Now, there's a reason why we struggle with poverty in spite of our wide variety of raw materials and natural resources. And that reason is bigger than corruption. It's all about how our economy is set up and what we're selling to the world. Manufacturing allows businesses to sell finished products at a higher cost than the value of all of the raw materials used. Large-scale manufacturing allows for goods to be mass-produced using the assembly line processes and advanced technologies as core assets. Efficient manufacturing techniques enable manufacturers to take advantage of economies of scale, producing more units at lower cost. And this is why Nigerian textile producers often struggle to keep up with what comes from China and Europe. You see, our economy is largely operating in the primary sector. Now, the primary sector of the economy includes any industry involved in the extraction and production of raw materials such as farming or logging, hunting, fishing, forestry, and even mining. The primary sector tends to make up a larger proportion of the economy of developing countries than it does in developed countries. For example, in 2018, Agriculture, forestry, and fishing comprised more than 15% of the GDP in sub-Saharan Africa, but less than 1% of GDP in North America. Manufacturing matters to Nigeria because it provides high-wage jobs and commercial innovation and a key to trade deficit reduction. Also, a disproportionately large contribution to environmental sustainability. Now, the secret to successful manufacturing is R&D, which the Executive Secretary of TETFund, Professor Suleiman Elias-Bogoro, insists that we make a big investment in. Take a look.
I mean, many industries in this country, including some conglomerates, they have been outsourcing competence and opportunity for expertise in addressing problems of some of the industries. Outsourcing in the sense that they're not even using Nigerians. They're not using Nigerians. And that is not right. What we're trying to do at TETFund is to remind them, and that's why when I came in 2014, I made a case for institutionalization of what R&D, research and development. And that was when, more recently, the National Universities Commission, the NBTE, NCCE were working together in partnership with industry, Economic Summit Group, Manufacturing Association Nigeria, TETFund. We formed the triple helix model of working together. And even within public service, we are reaching out. We signed MOU with Federal Ministry of Science and Tech. We signed with NIDA, and so on and so forth. We are moving for PTDF. We signed an MOU with PTDF. We are looking at agencies that we can share knowledge.
So let's take a closer look at manufacturing, even as we examine its problems and prospects within the Nigerian space. The focus is also on how being more proficient in this sector will help the country have a better balance of trade and attract more income when it comes to long-term foreign direct investment and trade.
Manufactured goods are necessary for trade. According to the World Trade Organization, 80% of international trade is in goods and only 20% is in services. This means that we need goods to trade for foreign goods, or we rack up a large and growing trade deficit, which Nigeria has been doing for many decades now. This is what really threatens the value of the Naira. If the Naira becomes very cheap, imports will become very expensive, and Nigeria won't have the capacity to replace imports. Manufactured goods are also crucial for the service industries. Even though about 2/3 of most economies are composed of service industries, these service industries are dependent on manufactured goods for their operation and for their own technological progress. For instance, the retail and warehousing industries, which comprise about 11% of American GNP, are in the business of selling manufactured goods. The airline industry, the telecommunications industry, and the software industry depend on airplanes, phones, and broadcast equipment, and computers for both their existence and for their technological progress.
Human beings today, and perhaps for the last century or so, consume manufactured goods, not raw materials. We use manufactured goods. Most of these goods we use, most of the services we consume come from some manufacturing process or some industrial process. We take cocoa and we convert it through through a manufacturing process into chocolate, and we consume chocolate. But we don't eat cocoa. We take cotton and we convert it into textiles and wear and clothes, but we don't wear cotton. You understand what I mean? So, and these products, manufactured products, are of greater value than the raw materials from which they come. So, for instance, chocolate is much, much more valuable than raw cocoa. So the person who produces chocolate, although he produces it from cocoa, makes sometimes perhaps 20 times, 100 times more value than the person who grows the cocoa.
Each manufacturing job creates 3 other jobs. In the US, the Economic Policy Institute has found that each manufacturing job supports 3 other jobs in the wider economy through something called the multiplier effect. That is, the wages from manufacturing employees are re-spent in other parts of the economy because manufacturing adds so much value to the economy. Nigeria is currently ranked the 29th largest economy in the world. However, contributions from the industrial sector to the country's gross domestic product are still poor. The history of industrial development and manufacturing in Nigeria has been marred with a series of policy inconsistencies and distractions attributable to the discovery of oil. From a modest 4.8% in 1960, manufacturing's contribution to the nation's GDP increased to 7.2% in 1970 and to 7.4% in 1975. In 1980, it declined to 5.4%, but then surged to a record high of 10.7% in 1985. By 1990, manufacturing contributed 8.1% to the GDP, but then dropped to 7.9% in 1992, 6.7% in 1995, and further fell to 6.3% in 1997. As of 2001, it dropped further to 3.4% from 6.2% in 2000. However, it increased to 4.16% in 2011, which is less than what it was in 1960. Despite the challenges that beset the Nigerian manufacturing industry, it has witnessed good growth in recent years. This can be traced to many factors, including the government's ban on imported goods. According to Nairametrics, a business intelligence firm, 5 local vegetable oil brands dominate the Nigerian market due to the government's import ban. Similarly, the spaghetti manufacturing industry has recorded huge success in recent years. Nigeria is now the 12th largest instant noodle market globally. The same success has been recorded in the cement industry. For instance, Dangote Cement accounts for 60% of the estimated 33 million metric tons of local cement demand in Nigeria. Also, manufacturing industries in Nigeria have done well in the production of goods for the nation's population as well as for export. Economic growth depends on manufacturing. National power depends to a great extent on manufacturing power. Over the last 100 years, the great powers, or most powerful 4 or 5 countries, have controlled about 75% of global industrial machinery production. This is because industrial machinery is used both to generate national wealth and to produce military equipment. If all regions of the world had an independent capacity to produce manufactured goods, there would be little opportunity to intimidate and dominate countries. In fact, there would probably be fewer wars because global power would be balanced.
Now, no doubt, Nigeria needs an industry that can reduce its 33% unemployment rate. Just picture this. Roughly 210 million people work in China's manufacturing sector. For better perspective, let me put it this way. That is more than Nigeria's entire population. And this is why TETFund is very concerned with the sector and has reached out to Nigerian academics to be a part of the think tank that will help to resolve this problem. The Paradigm Shift recently spoke to the president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Engineer Mansour Ahmed, and the technical assistant to the executive secretary of TETFund, Dr. Ayo Popola, to review the state of manufacturing sector and how TETFund activities are helping to make the required change.
The pure reason, if you go as far back as you can, is colonialism. The fact that when the colonial masters were in charge, they had no interest in building manufacturing capacity. Their interest is to take the raw materials, whether they are in terms of agricultural produce or minerals, take them out and do the manufacturing there. because that is their interest. Manufacturing is a key to every development of every nation, because manufacturing is what creates value. And this again continued for many, many years. Subsequently, probably from around the 70s, as far as Nigeria is concerned, one other thing happened. So we discovered oil in large quantities. And then our governments perhaps made the biggest mistake we could ever make. We forgot that the money we are getting from oil, right, when we produce crude oil and export it and sell it, the money we are getting, the value we are getting is not value that we created here. We used it now to buy all the things that we require for our lifestyle. And we began then to even perhaps destroy the manufacturing capacity we had started to build before oil.
Basically, in manufacturing, it has to do with inputs and output. And for you to actually have a good input, you need to actually research into the raw material that are required for you to do any manufacturing. So for example, if we have, God has given this country a lot of resources, including crude oil, for example, in the Niger Delta. So how does it make sense to anybody to see that the exploration of the crude in the Niger Delta is other people from other parts of the world are the one doing it for us? Since inception of Nigeria to date, does that make sense to any economy? So meaning that if the crude are there and nobody has come to extract it or explore it for us, it will just be there as resources and potential. I mean, the bad side of it is that they even take the resources back to their country, refine it for us, and we still go there to go and buy. So by and large, if you look at that simple value chain, which can actually be complex, you will answer the question, why is it that we are not manufacturing? Because we have a lot of resources untapped. We are not ready to instill science, technology, and innovation to refine them to a product or an input that can be used in the industry for manufacturing.
So what are the challenges we face? In each of these areas, our infrastructure is yet to be fully developed. So for instance, our electricity is not adequate. Nigeria today produces probably on the average 6 to 10 thousand megawatts of electricity. Given the size of our country, given the size of our economy, given this population, the demand for electricity is way, way beyond what we need. So we don't have enough electricity. Even the other infrastructure services like the road networks, the ports we need if we're to export, and other vital infrastructure requirements like water are not adequate. Even factory spaces are not sufficiently organized, they are not adequate. So we lack infrastructure. Secondly, as I said, we need knowledge of the sciences of manufacturing, and that comes through a whole range of educational processes, especially scientific processes, research and development, that you need to be able to understand these things and to expand them and to continue to exploit new opportunities and new ways of doing things.
What research and development actually do is to add value to anything, be it good, be it services. So when you are talking about value addition, and you are not going to be theoretical about it, anything anybody is talking about in terms of value addition in this country is indirectly talking to research and development. Reason being the fact that it is when you interrogate the status quo that you can have a new outcomes. And it is when you interrogate that you can know, oh, this is the correct direction to go, even in governance, even in social security system that we have, even in social development. Before now, you can know what is happening in the housing sector. There are a lot of innovative solutions that people are bringing on board now. And those are part of product of research. Who said we cannot have other cheaper building materials in this country? So we need to actually focus on research and development across the firmament of all our life, across board as a people. How proud can you be that you're actually using your money to finance job creation, productivity, industrialization in another country?
We need research and development to determine and to help us improve both on the quality of these products and, of course, also, if you're going back to agriculture, on the yield, the amount of cocoa, for instance, that we can get from a hectare of land. The triple helix is simply a concept which says that in a modern economy, there are several parties involved in the development of any process or in the development of any undertaking. First of all, government is one party. Government is an important party in whatever you do, because government creates the conditions. But for instance, if we're talking about manufacturing, government creates the conditions for establishment of manufacturing capacity. Government creates the conditions on and the regulations on how those manufacturing facilities should be run. Secondly, of course, we've talked about the need for R&D, right? Or the need for knowledge-driven and knowledge and skills to be able to do those transformations and manage those transformations that we need to manage. And the party or the sector that is responsible for developing knowledge and skills are the academia, right? The universities, the polytechnics, right? The research institutions. These are the academia, the academic entities that are responsible for improving our knowledge base on a continuing basis. Largely, for instance, through research and development, through teaching, through training, right? So you therefore need academia in whatever developmental process you want to execute. Third is that, of course, you need the people who actually will invest their money, who will undertake the processes, who will then manage, who will invest, create, and manage the manufacturing processes and the establishments. And that's the private sector, or if you like, the business sector. So for an effective development of manufacturing sector and manufacturing capacity, you need all these three: government, academia, and business sector.
That's why we also are talking about under the triple helix model to foster academic, government, industry relationship, whereby the government is going to be providing an enabling environment, not over-regulation. And be able to say, for this problem to be solved, we know the best brain are in the university, and at the same time, we know that the best platform to do this for commercial, that is commercially viable for this particular project is in the industry, and we are going to be the mediator. And at the same time, we are focusing on the need of the people. That is why it's not going to be complete. When you say only triple helix, it must be people-centered or people-centric triple helix model. That is what we are canvassing for. And that is the hybridized solution we are bringing on board and platform as a special purpose vehicle for the financing of R&D in this country that we name National Research and Development Foundation.
Now that was a very revealing session. But after all is said and done, the public has a critical part to play, especially where perception is concerned. Locally produced goods are mostly viewed as inferior in quality compared to imported ones. Until we get that perception changed or improved, it will be hard to convince consumers to buy. A lot of marketing and branding has to be done, targeted at improving the image of local goods and making them seen as valuable as their imported counterparts. And that is the paradigm shift. Join us again next time. Until then, thank you for stopping by. Good night.